What's poppin'? No, I'm just kidding. I can't take myself that seriously. Welcome to your $1,400 stimulus check and stimulus package update. So the stimulus check has been passed in the Senate, if you aren't already aware, and given the nod of approval by President Biden. So what happens next with the stimulus bill, and how soon will you start receiving your checks? Hint, it's probably sooner than you would expect. So we're going to cover the timeline for these checks and the next stimulus package. We're going to cover a potential hiccup with unemployment boost. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but I think it's worth mentioning. We're going to cover how the child tax credit will work, some more information on that, how the new healthcare subsidies will work, and how they could benefit you. And in order to keep my presentations as balanced and unbiased as possible, we're going to chat briefly about what people are saying is wrong about this stimulus bill, some complaints against this stimulus bill. So starting off with the stimulus check timeline. I think this is the part that people are most interested in. So the bill was approved in the Senate, 50 votes to 49 votes. The reason it was 49 votes is one Republican senator had to fly back home to Alaska to visit a family member's funeral, so he just simply wasn't part of the voting process. From here, the bill is going to be sent to the House, and they are actually scheduled to vote on this thing tomorrow on Tuesday. So we're right on track with the schedule here, and then it'll be sent in its final form to President Biden. Now, in the House, it's expected to just be voted through without any problems or changes. If there is changes in the House, then it would be sent back to the Senate, where they would approve it, and then to President Biden. Now, I don't foresee these changes because Nancy Pelosi has already said they are willing to approve whatever is approved. This was before the Senate vote, but I just don't see any potential hiccups there. So it's looking like it'll be on the president's desk sometime Wednesday, and he will either sign it sometime Wednesday or sometime Thursday at the latest. And then this thing will be completely in order and approved. So when can you expect to receive these checks? Well, first off, luckily, these systems are already in place. Hopefully the IRS and the Treasury is getting pretty darn good at sending out these payments, especially because it's pretty much the same group of people who will receive this third round as those who received the first and the second round of payments. The first round of checks, just for some context here, took 19 days for the first people to receive those checks. Now, the average person probably had to wait more like 25 to 40 days for the bulk of people, but the very first people received it at 19 days. The second round of checks, the first people actually received them 3 days after it was signed into law, believe it or not. Now, you probably didn't receive it 3 days after, but that was when they started rolling out, because not everyone receives them at one. It's not like this big red button at the IRS where they're like, boom, checks for everyone. I wish it was that simple, but we're looking at a timeline that will definitely be faster than 19 days, but probably a little bit longer than 3 days. And this is because the IRS is currently in tax filing season, and they are bogged down with some changes in how taxes will be filed due to stimulus checks and the fact that tax filing was delayed a little bit. So I would expect, probably a few extra days before the first payments are sent out. And really, you could expect a week to a week and a half after approval if you're receiving that electronic payment. Now, fewer people will likely receive this electronic payment this time, especially if you didn't receive an electronic payment last time. I know a lot of people last time actually received those stimulus debit cards, so keep an eye out again for those stimulus debit cards. They come in a very nondescript envelope. It almost looks like junk mail, so keep an eye out for that because chances are more and more people will receive those debit cards this time around. I have videos on the debit cards and the envelope if you want to see exactly what that envelope looks like. And now I know some people still haven't even received their first stimulus check or their second stimulus check, or they're missing a portion of their check or a dependent payment, or maybe they just had a child and they haven't received payment for that yet. If that's the case for you, what you have to do is file your 2020 taxes. Even if you have never filed taxes before, even if you don't usually need to file taxes, you need to file your 2020 taxes and receive that stimulus payment as a recovery rebate credit. To receive those first two stimulus payments, if you haven't received them yet, that is the only way to receive them. So make sure you do that. Also, with this next round of stimulus checks, we don't know exactly yet if they're going to base it off of your 2019 or your 2020 taxes. So there's a consideration there. If your income was much higher in 2020, you may want to hold off a little bit on filing your taxes until there's some decision made, or we have a little bit more guidance there, because if they go off of 2020 numbers and you earn much more, you may not be eligible for the stimulus payment. So just a piece of consideration there. Now from here, let's talk about unemployment benefits. This bill addresses those boosts before the expiration expiration date for 11.4 million Americans who are currently on the pandemic unemployment insurance. It's going to be $300 per week through September 6th, and there's going to be an additional tax benefit where you will not be taxed on your first $10,200 in benefit. Now, I know there was a ton of confusion here as to which year this is attributed to, how exactly this works, so don't worry, I did a bunch of digging here. Basically, this is how it works. It's very simple. There's going to be a tax waiver on your first $10,200 worth of unemployment benefits for 2020. So this will apply to your 2020 benefits, this recent change. Once this is voted into law, you will not have taxes due on your first $10,200 in benefits for 2020. This will only affect your 2020 taxes as of right now. Now back to the timeline. This bill is going to be passed in time before the deadline for the current unemployment boost of the 14th of March. But some states are saying that there may still be a short lapse in coverage because we're only a few days out from that 14th deadline and they just weren't planning ahead. They have to retool their systems and make some minor changes. Now, back in December when these boosts were re-upped, some states could handle the changes immediately, but some other states took nearly a month to implement the changes. Hopefully this time around, with fewer changes from the current program that's running, it won't take that long, but it's just something worth consideration. And if you receive a small lapse, that is probably why. Also part of this bill, we have the child tax credits of $3,600 per year per child under the age of 6 and $3,000 per year per child between the ages of 6 and 17. As of now, it's looking like this will actually be paid out monthly, which is a bit of a surprise to me because there was a whole bunch of discussion about a month ago where they were saying, we don't know if this is actually even possible to do. We have no systems to do this, but it's looking like they're going to at least try to do this. We don't have all the details out on this yet, but I can guarantee you 100% that once we have all the details out on this, I will make a video on it. So make sure you are subscribed. There will also be some very significant health insurance subsidies that will be a part of the stimulus bill that is set to pass in a few days. Under the new guidance, those who use Obamacare would pay no more than 8.5% of their income towards coverage. This is down from nearly 10% where it currently sits. So this would go into effect for those individuals who earn less than around $51,000 per year and a family of 4 for those who earn less than around $104,000 per year. Now I say earn around those dollar amounts because the technical definition here, it applies to those who earn less than 400% of the poverty rate for your various household status. So it's a little bit confusing, but those are the rough numbers. Now moving on from here, I believe it's important to present both sides of an argument. It's not my job to have an opinion or a bias or try to sway you one way or the other. It's my job just to present all the facts, lay them out, and then you can make your decision, whatever you decide on those facts. So with the stimulus bill set to pass this week, there are many moderates and conservatives who still stand out against the bill and don't understand how it even got passed or why it got passed. So here's what's going on. Biden came into the office basically touting himself as this bipartisan deal maker who's going to bring both sides together, unify them, pass legislation that everyone agrees upon. And then we have the stimulus bill where we at first had this two-track approach where budget reconciliation was kind of the plan B, but they wanted to go with a bipartisan proposal. The bipartisan proposal, that idea didn't last long because they realized Republicans weren't going to give up the level of relief that they were aiming for. So then all the energy went towards that budget reconciliation bill, and then we were left with a bill where no Republicans, not even one single Republican, voted in either the Senate or the House for this bill. So now Republicans are saying, like, where's this bipartisan deal maker that came into office? And on top of this, many are saying that the bill that was passed and is set to be passed completely is filled with pork that is just simply not stimulus related. So some of the not very well-liked items within this stimulus bill include $2 billion for Amtrak grants, $100 million for a Silicon Valley underground railway system, $10 billion for foreign affairs, and much, much more, like a bridge that's also set to be built between New York and Canada, just tons of small line items. So wherever you sit on the stimulus bill, even if you're the biggest fan ever of the stimulus bill, it's hard to argue that every single item within that bill is actually stimulus related. So it's easy to see the complaints on both sides. And it's just my job to present, the opinions on both sides. So that's going to do it for today. We have a very eventful few days ahead of us. So just stay tuned for a much more detailed analysis as more information comes out. And once I can actually get my hands on some bill text and break down various new programs for you. So I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.